Thanks, Brandon. Thanks, Google, for coming out. Given the lunch that I just sat through, I'm shocked that anyone is actually in here listening to me right now, so I appreciate you guys pulling yourself away from that ridiculous lunch. I'm also slightly bummed that I am here with 3 of my employees, and they want to know why we don't have that at any of our facilities. So today I'm here to talk a little bit about mindset. I'm probably not going to tell you anything you don't already know today about fitness and nutrition. I'm just going to challenge the way you think a little bit. I don't think we necessarily need more information on exercise or nutrition. Thanks to companies like Google, that information is readily at our fingertips all the time. We probably don't need more information, we just need a better way to think about the information that we have. Now, before I launch into that, I want to touch on probably the most important thing for you to take out of this entire presentation. And if you take nothing else of what I'm going to say, take this. It's this concept that I like to call flattening the curve. And this is a little secret that our industry either chooses not to tell people or just forgets to tell people. And the secret is this. The biggest improvements in health, in wellness, in functional capacity don't come from when you're going from out of shape to ridiculously in shape. They don't come from when you're a couch potato to a marathon runner. They come right there. They come from when you go from in really, really, really crappy shape to just sort of crappy shape. All the research shows that that's where the biggest health and wellness benefits come from exercise and come from healthy eating. We don't need to burn 10,000 calories in a workout. We don't need to work out 7 days a week. Turns out we just need to do a little bit more than what we're doing. We're not asking you to go from a couch potato to an Olympic athlete or someone who's a moderate exerciser to someone who's an exerciser every single day of the week. We just have to do a little bit more. And that might be the most important public health message that doesn't make it out there very often. So there are some of you who are going to be sitting here in this presentation who are already exercisers, and this doesn't apply to you. But there's some of you who are sitting out there that are thinking, crap, I heard I'm supposed to do 150 minutes of moderate to vigorous intensity physical activity during the week. I don't have 150 minutes. I don't even have 100 minutes. I don't even have 50 minutes. Well, it turns out that even if you have 30 minutes, that's going to make a bigger difference than doing nothing at all. So as you sit there and you think about what I'm saying and you think about how this applies to your life, realize that the rate of return from going from doing very little to just something is huge, absolutely huge. So if you left now and you took that for my presentation, please don't leave now, but if you did leave now, that's, I think, the most valuable piece of advice that I can give you. That being said, I do want to talk about the cycle of madness. I've been in commercial fitness for 20 years now. I've worked with clients all the way from little kids to very, very old adults, everyone in between. Most of the people I've worked with have fallen into what I like to call this cycle of madness. People get frustrated about their fitness or their weight. Eventually, their motivation reaches a tipping point. As soon as it does, they exercise hard and they diet way too much. They get burned out, and then they go back to their old behaviors, and the cycle starts again. If you want to put this on a calendar, that's like December 15th. That's like January 1st. It's like the first 3 weeks of January. That's January the 25th. That's January the 26th through the next December. And then it happens again and again and again, right? So this is familiar to many people. And here's the thing. It's not what they learn about what they should do during that year that they took off that makes the difference. It's learning about a different way to think. So again, today, I'm not going to challenge you how to do things differently. I'm going to challenge you how to think differently. But I'm going to do it from an interesting perspective. And as I said earlier, it's not the perspective that you need to know something magical. Like, everyone understands what they need to do to be in better shape. Like, there's nobody in this room who doesn't think they should move more and eat less, and that probably wouldn't result in them getting in better shape, right? And some variation of that is what's talked about in every single message that's out there. But just in case you don't believe me that it's not what you know that makes the difference, it's what you do with it, I'm going to use an example. And I'm actually going to use myself as an example. That is me in high school. I am 265 pounds. I'm a big, angry, fat offensive lineman. I'd beat you up and steal your M&Ms, which probably wasn't helping very much with the 265. So that's me in high school. That's me at 24 years old. I'm the guy in the middle, in case you're wondering. That's me in the middle. I'm 165 pounds in that picture. And this is a nice story. Like, this is the nice feel-good, like, fat kid, got fit, great story, right? And that'd be a great story if that's where it stopped, but that's not where it stopped. That's me in 2011. Anyone want to guess what I weigh? 265, whoever said it. So has anybody ever lost a bunch of weight and then regained it all? Yeah, has that happened to anyone? It happened to me. Out of curiosity, when it happened to you, did you get your master's degree in cellular and molecular exercise physiology? Because I did. I could actually tell you how fat was metabolized on a cellular level, and I managed to gain 100 pounds. I could actually help people lose weight, lots of weight. That's 4 years after our business started at that point. I'm helping lots of people lose lots of weight, and I end up regaining all of my weight back. That's me in 2015. That's largely me today. And the difference between that me and that me and that me is not necessarily what I knew. In fact, between here and here, I actually learned way less than I did between there and there. The difference was the things I did with what I knew. And that's what I want to talk to you guys about today. So if this happened to me through personal experience, I know it can happen to you, and I'm going to tell you the pivot that I undertook to actually get myself to a point where I was happy and stable with my lifestyle at a certain point. So the problem to overcome is rarely knowledge. Also, the problem is rarely short-term motivation. People are really fired up in their first 2 to 6 months of any exercise program, right? First several months are awesome. That's largely because we're making physical changes. It's very reinforcing when you look in the mirror and you're looking better, your clothes are fitting differently, but eventually that stops, right? Like weight loss is a lot of times people's primary metric for success, and that's another conversation for another time as to probably why that shouldn't be your primary metric for success, but that's what it is for most people. But eventually that has to stop. Like weight loss isn't linear. What would happen if weight loss was linear? You'd weigh negative, right? So it has to stop eventually. But that's when we start to lose our motivation. We're wired for immediate and instant gratification. That's the way our brain works. So you do a hard workout for a week, you step on the scale, oh, I lost some weight. Your clothes fit better, you look a little bit better. Eventually that goes away, and that instant gratification starts to taper off. So we need to rely on something different. And today I'm going to teach you about something you could rely on that's slightly different. So we're going to talk about how we overcome this problem 3 different ways. And again, like I said earlier, you don't got to do everything. Just do something. So take one thing I talk about today that resonates with you and apply it after the fact. You don't have to do everything that I talk about. In fact, I would highly encourage you to only pick one thing. Don't pick everything because everyone's busy and that doesn't work well. So the first thing I want to talk about is identity. So your identity is how you view yourself, right? Like you guys view yourself as, you call you Googlers? Is that what we'd call you? Did they get that right? So there's a certain identity that goes along with that, right? And there's pride that's associated with that, and that's how you view yourself, right? Well, we have that same identity with regard to our own bodies. Like I've heard people tell me that I'm just fat. I've heard people say that before. Like that's just me. I've never been the in-shape person. I've never been the fit person, right? That's part of their identity. And I will tell you that for me, I actually couldn't make a shift in my body physically until I shifted my mind mentally. Because no matter how jacked and ripped I look as a bodybuilder, when I looked at myself in the mirror, I still saw that fat kid in high school. And I couldn't change my body until I changed my mind. Now it is lunchtime, it's the middle of the workday, I'm not a psychologist, we're not going to talk about identity shift like that. So we're going to do it a slightly different way. We're going to talk about identity shift through your environment, through your social network, because this helps to shape your identity quite a bit. And I'll give you a great example. I was at my sister's house probably about a month and a half ago. We were having a family get-together, and I walked over, I grabbed a couple pieces of chicken, grabbed some salad, grabbed some water, sat down, ate. No one said anything to me. There was pizza there was cookies there was alcohol there. What do you think would have happened if I would have grabbed 3 pieces of pizza, 2 cookies, and a beer? Everyone would have been like, what's wrong with you, right? What are you having that for? Because that's out of their identity norm for me. So basically, my social network helped kind of support the fit, healthy identity that I have. And this is something that you guys can have as well. Like, y'all have that friend in college that you can't hang around with anymore because bad things happen. Remember that friend? Remember that friend? If you're sitting there going, no, I don't have that friend, guess what? You're that friend if you don't think you have that friend, right? So if you're looking to make any change, I don't care what it is, I highly recommend recruiting support. And ask anyone, but typically it's one person at home and one person at work, the places where you spend most of your time. So whatever the changes you're asking, or whatever that changes that you're trying to make, so I don't care if it's be more physically active, eat healthier, whatever it is, recruiting support to do it will make all the difference in the world. But when you do it, you got to do it a specific way. One of the worst ways to do it is just say, hey, I'm trying to make this change, will you help me? Which doesn't seem like that's all bad, and that's quite often how it happens, but it's not specific enough. If you want someone to truly help you make a change, be specific. So if your significant other is going to stop you from eating pizza or ordering pizza, then you need to say, hey, make sure that I don't order pizza, and when I try to, you could do or you could say this to me. Or your coworker at work, make sure that I don't have candy at my desk or something like that. And when I do, this is what you could do. Be specific. I've never seen anyone make lasting behavior change without having some social support structure to do it in. We're not wired like that. We're wired to get help from the people around us. I mean, you guys clearly have a great community here, so hopefully as you're looking to think about some sort of health behavior change you're trying to make, you can find one person here and one person at home that could be your accountability partner. Remember South Park? Remember Accountability Buddies on South Park? Do you remember that? That's always how I think. If you didn't, you could watch that. You probably shouldn't go back to your desk and watch it, but you can go watch it at home. So my first piece of homework I'm going to give you is build your accountability network. The more the better. You want to be held accountable? Really? You want to be held accountable? Tell the Facebook sphere that you're going to post how you're doing every single day on Facebook, right? Now I know that sounds crazy, but that's an awesome form of accountability. And I've seen this work so many times in so many different ways. Texting groups. We have a group of clients at our facility that will text each other the amount of calories they consume during a day. Now, again, I don't know if that's a good idea or a bad idea. It works for some people, it doesn't work for other people. But what's beautiful about that group? They just text each other the calorie number. That's it. The other person doesn't text back. It's just sending the calorie number. Just even that little bit of accountability. So getting creative around creating an accountability network is a good, key, foundational thing that you can do. But please be specific. Be specific about what you're going to ask of someone. The next thing I want to talk about is a lifestyle evaluation. We're busy. You guys are all busy, right? Like you're so busy that they have breakfast and lunch for you in this building so you could eat while you're getting ready to work, or possibly eat while you're working at some point. Like some of you are eating right now, watching me, and probably IMing and working all at the same time. That's how busy we are. We're busy. How much time do you realistically have to commit to whatever behavior change you're looking to make? Say you're looking to lose weight. How much time do you have to commit? I'm going to make a statement that probably most people would be shocked to hear me make. I don't really care what you want to accomplish. Doesn't matter to me. Not one bit. I care about what you can actually do. I'll give you an example. Who knows what an Ironman triathlon is? Who knows? Okay. What's the swim? How long? Mile. 2 miles? Close. 2.4 miles. 2.4 mile swim. What's the bike? 60, twice that. 112 mile bike. What's the run? It's a marathon, right? 26.2 miles. So an Ironman triathlon is a 2.4 mile swim, it's a 112 mile bike, and it's a 26.2 mile run. It's done by the same person on the same day. The average person does it in like 12 to 14 hours. I train these people. What do you think the first question is I ask them? Any ideas? Judging by the look on your face, you're thinking I'm asking them if they're crazy, right? Like that could be it. And that's not the first question I ask them. It's not how fast you could.
Maybe what can you do now?
Yeah, like what can you do now? That's a good question. Like, hey, can you even swim? How much time do you have? That's the question. That's the question, because the question is even more specific than how much time do you have. It's do you have 25 hours a week to commit to exercise? Because that's how much time it takes to train for an Ironman triathlon. If they say they do, I say, great, we can do an Ironman. If they say they can't, then I say, okay, tell me what you can do, and then I can tell you what you want to accomplish. You have 15 hours, you can do a half Ironman. You have 10 hours, you can do an Olympic distance, and so on. Now, that makes a lot of sense when I'm talking about an Ironman, but who does this with their just general fitness and weight loss goals? And we'll get a little bit more specific on that in a second. So, starting with what you want to accomplish is something that we're conditioned to by our industry. Like my industry conditions people all the time to not think about what they could actually do, but they say, start with what you want to accomplish. See ads like this, right? Like that guy. Or that girl. Shameless dig at a competitor. Or the shake weight guy. Anyone have a shake weight? No, not that you're willing to admit to, right? Here's a question for everyone. 2 questions, actually. 1, do you think the shake weight guy uses the shake weight to look like that? And 2, what is it actually 7 times more effective than? That's what I want to know. Or that girl. Or that girl. How come you don't see pictures like that? How come you don't see pictures of normal people exercising, just average normal people? Right? They'll tell you, oh, that's not aspirational marketing. Huh, all right, or it might be reality. Like these 2 people. You think that these 2 people do the body weight workout at Fit Zone to look like that? How many hours a week do you think it takes to look like that guy? What do you think? Any ideas? Give me a ballpark. 20 hours a week. Yeah. So 20 to look like that, like his body. I think you got to add at least like 8 hours a week for his hair, because that's amazing, right? So we're conditioned through all these ads by advertisers to say, hey, if you do this workout, you can look like this. Well, really? Really? So let's talk about starting with what you can do, not with what you want to accomplish. This is an article that I highly recommend that everyone finds on the internet. You can Google it. Everyone probably uses that joke, and it's really bad. I'm sorry. That's just a big collective eye roll from the audience. So this is an article called The Cost of Being Lean. The Cost of Being Lean. It's from a group called Precision Nutrition. And it's an open access article. Precision Nutrition is a fitness education provider, fitness and nutrition education provider. They also have a lot of open access stuff for the public. And what this article tells you is the lifestyle trade-offs that you need to make to be at certain levels of body fatness. Because there are lifestyle trade-offs. These are the things over here that you have to do to be at a healthy percentage of body fat. And these are the things you have to do to be at a lean or athletic percentage of body fat. And the people that are in all those ads, and all the ads you see, are at a lean or athletic percentage of body fat. Now, if you just look bird's eye view at these, you can see there's a lot more bullets under lean or athletic than there is under just healthy, which that makes sense. But let's actually break these down for a second. So to be at a healthy amount of body fat, you sleep 7 hours a night. You got to exercise 30 to 45 minutes daily. You could have desserts or processed carbs 3 to 5 times a week. What's a processed carb? Bread. Like anything that don't look like what it's supposed to look like, right? Like you guys know what a fruit looks like. You know what a fruit roll-up looks like? Fruit roll-up is a processed carb, right? So you can have that 3 to 5 times a week. Now let's go lean or athletic percentage of body fat. Exercise 45 to 75 minutes twice daily. Sleep 9 hours a night. Who sleeps 9 hours a night? Anyone sleep 9 hours? That is spectacular. That's good. But not a lot of people sleep 9 hours a night. De-stress for 20 minutes a day and do less. Here's the kicker. Eat desserts / processed carbs 1 time every 10 to 12 weeks, comma, within reason. I don't know what the within reason part means. So you like your donut? You like a donut? Like you want to be at a leaner athletic percentage of body fat? You get to have it once every 3 months. Take your time, savor it. Avoid caloric beverages, avoid eating in restaurants, avoid fun, right? Funny story about this, sort of funny / embarrassing story about my past. So I went from the overweight kid in high school to like the in-shape bodybuilder, right? And then so the young, immature 18-year-old Mike, why do you think the young, immature 18-year-old Mike wants to get in better shape? Girls, thank you, girls, right? So this is a story, ladies, you're going to get a kick out of this one. I'm going out on this date with this girl. Remember, I got in shape, so I'm like, oh, girls will be interested in me, this would be great. I'm going to go out to the movies with this girl. And ladies, listen carefully because I think you're going to get a kick out of this. So I'm like, hey, we get to her house, we drive to the movie theater. I'm like, hey, can you take this container of cold chicken and rice, and can you put it in your purse? Because I have to eat this in the middle of the movie or I'm going to burn muscle. And she looked at me like I was from another planet. Ladies, do you think I got a second date? No second date. I'm lucky that we even got through the first date, right? The funny thing was, in that instant, I realized that I couldn't date a normal girl. I had to date a girl that was going to bring her Tupperware to the movies too, right? And sure enough, that's actually what happened, right? So earlier I said, like, you got to watch your social circle, like people you're around. Like, for me to be at a different percentage of body fat than I was, a drastically different percentage, I had to change my friends. Now, I don't recommend anyone goes out and does that, but what I'm saying, well, maybe in some cases it might not be a bad idea, but I was giving a presentation once, this same one at one of our other corporate wellness partners. And right as I'm talking about this guy's phone goes off, and he starts laughing hysterically. And I'm like, all right, dude, you disrupted my entire presentation, so please tell us why you're laughing hysterically. And he said, I just got a text from a buddy. It says, happy hour, 4 p.m., you coming? ? I'm like, there you go, right? There's the example of who you should associate with. So most people who see those ads and who have aspirations of getting in better shape start at an unhealthy percentage of body fat, and they're told or thought to that get to this leaner athletic percentage of body fat. And I'm not saying that if you want to achieve this, you shouldn't go after it, because you absolutely should, but you should do so with the understanding that it's going to be a significant change to your lifestyle. And no one talks about that, right? They just show you the pictures and everyone's jumping around and they're happy in the commercials and they're happy in the ads and look at how great shape I'm in. Well, they don't tell you it's those people's full-time job to look like that. So we need to be realistic with what we can do. Let's put this in a more specific context for you guys. People often talk about weight loss. Now, imagine if I took out an ad on Facebook and I said, lose 8 pounds in 4 weeks sustainably. Who's clicking on the ad? Anyone clicking on that ad? Probably not, right? They're clicking on the lose 30 pounds in 30 days. That's the ad they're clicking on. We don't do ads that say lose 8 pounds in 4 weeks sustainably. Not because that's not what the science shows, that's because no one would care. This is a chart that we use at our facilities that breaks down the pros, cons, and lifestyle costs of certain rates of weight loss. And over here we have on the highest end, the fastest rate of weight loss is 1.5 pounds to 2 pounds per week. Out of curiosity, why is that the fastest rate of weight loss that I have in here? Anyone have any idea? Yeah, well, and beyond the most restrictive and most exercise, it's what science tells us is the amount of weight you could lose safely and sustainably without it being all regained back or without losing a bunch of muscle tissue. Unless you are somebody who's 500 pounds and morbidly obese, that's going to be about your maximum rate of weight loss. So to do that, we suggest that it's going to take 9 to 12 hours a week of diet and exercise to lose 2 pounds per week sustainably. I'm not talking about your first week of your diet where you lose 6 pounds just because you're dieting for the first week. I'm talking you want to lose 30 pounds and you're going to do it over the course of 15 weeks or something like that. Sustainable rate of weight loss of 1.5 to 2 pounds. 9 to 12 hours a week of time commitment, which is awesome if you have 9 to 12 hours. But so often, so many people set a goal for themselves that they're doomed to fail before they've ever started because they don't have enough time to commit to it because they don't understand the amount of time it's going to take. So where do I come up with 9 to 12 hours? Well, first off, if you're going to lose that much weight that quickly, and that is a large amount of weight to lose quickly, you're going to have to food log. Who's food logged before? Anyone food logged before? What can you tell me about food logging? It sucks. It sucks. Yeah, tedious is a nice way to say. It sucks. It takes time, right? If you're going to do it right, food logging takes at least 15 minutes a day, if not 30 minutes a day. But you just can't go in there and pick the first thing that's on the list. You got to scroll through the list, and you got to take your time to do it. So it probably takes 30 minutes a day or so to actually food log. Who meal preps? Yeah, I was going to ridiculous question to ask at a place like this. Why would you meal prep, right? You guys have the kitchen to do it over there. But for those of you who do meal, a couple of you guys raise your hand. It takes time. Meal prep takes time. And these are things that people don't consider. What about like going to the grocery store? Like if you buy fruits and vegetables, like you got to buy those at least twice a week, right? Because they go bad if you only buy them once a week. So most people don't understand the amount of time that it takes. Exercise, 5 to 6 hours a week. And we're largely sedentary, so to burn additional calories, we have to spend a decent amount of time exercising. But here's the kicker. You guys have a gym here? Okay, so that's good for you guys. You have a gym in your place of employment. I happen to work in a place where I have a gym, where I can literally step out of my office and I'm in a gym. But most people have to drive to the gym and drive from the gym. And that adds time on. So 5 to 6 hours of exercise time per week isn't necessarily the amount of time you're going to spend associated with exercise. And again, I'm not saying that people shouldn't shoot for 1.5 to 2 pounds a week. What I am saying is make sure your lifestyle supports the type of goal you're setting yourself up to try to achieve. Because if it doesn't support it, you're doomed to fail no matter how great your program is. So my second piece of homework for you, I really need to change this slide. It sounds way too dramatic, but should evaluate your life, is figure out how many hours a week you have. I once had a lady do this, and she came up with a negative number, right? And her number probably wasn't really negative, but that tells me that for that particular woman, like the only thing that mattered was her just maybe getting out and doing some walking, because that's all her lifestyle allowed for. How many people go buy a gym membership all gung-ho to exercise and then realize 3 weeks into having that gym membership they don't have time to go to the gym, right? That's something you could figure out beforehand with a little bit of forethought. All right, the last thing I want to talk about, and where I'm going to spend probably the bulk of the next 15, 20 minutes, is the concept of habits. We're all very familiar with habits. You guys drove here today. You probably didn't think of every turn you took when you were coming here, right? You just sort of came here and you thought about a zillion other things. You listened to the radio, you listened to a podcast, whatever it is, and you got here. Driving here is a habit. Habits are what allow us to actually function during our day. Typing is a habit, right? Like if you were to see my father, sorry, Dad, if you were to see my father type, you would know that he has not developed the habit of typing very well. Therefore, it's very difficult for him to do anything else when he's on the computer, right? Because he's this, right? But people who have a well-developed habit of typing can think about really, really complex things, and they do this really, really complex task with their fingers, but it's just habitual. Habits don't rely on willpower, and they don't rely on motivation. I'm here to tell you that willpower and motivation are terrible tools to establish a behavior long term. Let's talk about motivation for a second. I'll give you an example of motivation and how fleeting it is. We get web inquiries to our website at like 11:30, 12 o'clock at night. We get those, right? So somebody is on our website at 11:30 at night and they're typing in, I want to get in better shape or something to that effect. And we get a lot of these actually. Like I'd say, I don't know, we probably get like 50, 60 of them a year between all three of our facilities. You know the number of those people that actually come into our facilities for a consultation? Forget signing up for consultation. What do you think the number is? Zero. The number is zero. The number is consistently zero. Now, why does that happen? I'll tell you why. Because somebody's sitting there with a half-eaten pizza and an empty container of Haagen-Dazs, and in that moment, they are motivated. They are fired up, right? But then they wake up the next morning and they're like, I'll go back to bed and I'll eat a breakfast burrito, right? Motivation is so fleeting. It's so fleeting. What about willpower? When I was first in my career, I thought that I was just smart enough and like dynamic enough to just give people more willpower. And I was failing miserably. Or I just say, hey, you need more willpower. Well, then I learned as I progressed in my career that willpower is a limited thing. Turns out there's this concept in psychology that's referred to as ego depletion, which sounds sort of complicated, so we're just going to call it limitations of willpower. And the way this is studied is spectacular. This 1998 study was some of the seminal research on it. It's the brownie radish study. And the study, like most great studies, is very exquisite in its simplicity. Basically what they did is they brought a group of people into a room like this, and they said, hey, here's a bowl of brownies, here's a bowl of radishes. You guys are going to hang out in here. This isn't the experiment, even though it was. The experiment's in the other room. You're just going to hang out here. You guys, you can't eat the brownies, but you can eat the radishes. I have no idea why it was radishes, but they chose radishes, right? And they brought that group of people in this room, and they said, okay, let's go in this room over here, and let's solve some unsolvable puzzles, and let's do a bunch of math problems. Do them for as long as you want. We're going to start the watch when you start. When you want to be done, you can be done. You can be done at any point you want. We'll stop it when you're done, right? That was group people 1. Group of people 2, they brought them in and said, hey, here's some brownies, here's some radishes. Eat whatever you want. It doesn't matter. And then we'll go in the other room and do the experiment. The group of people that had to resist the brownies, and they could only eat the radishes, stopped significantly faster on all those challenging math problems and puzzles. Time and time again, this has been replicated in research. We have a limited amount of willpower. They had to use their willpower to resist the brownies. For the brownie group, it actually didn't even matter if you ate brownies or not. It just mattered that you didn't have to resist them, that allowed those people to go for longer. Willpower is a limited resource, right? Somebody made you mad today, I think. You didn't punch them in the face, right? At least I hope you didn't. We use willpower all the time. How much is left for novel behavior change? Wouldn't it be great if brushing our teeth as a habit or taking a shower as a habit could be the same kind of habits we have with exercise and healthy eating? Who brushed their teeth today? Good. It's pretty much everyone in the room. Solid. How motivated did you have to be to brush your teeth? I mean, did anybody set their cup down on the counter, stare at it a little bit, start bouncing up and down, and talk smack to their toothbrush? No. You put toothpaste on it, you put it in your mouth, you brush your teeth, you thought about 10,000 other things. What about taking a shower? Who took a shower in the past 24 hours? Raise your hand. Slightly less people, but all right. How much smack are you talking in your shower to get motivated to take a shower? You're not, right? It's a habit. It's a health habit. We've been doing health habits since the time we were little babies. We've learned health habits. So wouldn't it be great if we could make exercise and healthy eating as habitual as brushing our teeth and taking a shower? And we can. We just have to realize the method that we're going to do it with. So this brings up a concept called the habit loop. Habit loops work all the same way. Some of you are shaking your head. You may have seen this before. There's a cue, there's a routine or the habit, and then there's a reward. So as an example, maybe you eat your breakfast, you walk upstairs, you walk in your bathroom. Walking in your bathroom is the cue. The routine is that you brush your teeth, and the reward is you feel like you have healthier, cleaner teeth, right? And that's a very simple habit loop. Now, what's actually interesting, the habit loop was used to make teeth brushing, a habitual thing. Toothpaste almost didn't make it. And some of you may have heard this story. Like this back in the 30s or the 40s when toothpaste first came around. And people weren't using it. They're like, this is the greatest thing ever to advance dental hygiene. No one would use it, right? And then they found this really brilliant marketing guy that says, well, I can tell you why people aren't using it. There's no reward for using it. And the dental people are like, what do you mean there's not a reward? Their teeth aren't going to fall out. And the guy's like, well, yeah, but that's not how our human brain works. They need to be instantly gratified. The reward of their teeth not falling out is way the heck down there. They need something now. So the guy goes, make it fizz and make it minty. And they laugh. They're like, that's ridiculous. It does nothing for dental hygiene, right? He said, just try it. And they did it, and it caught on like wildfire because it was the habit. So that fizz, that bubbly, and that mint does nothing for your dental hygiene, but it's a habit that reinforces the behavior right away. It makes you feel like you did something good for yourself. And when we talk about developing the habit of healthy eating and exercise, one thing that I always encourage people to do is after they've done a health behavior, take a second and actually realize the reward from doing it. Even if the reward from doing it is I just feel better. That's what drives it into the subconscious. Getting done with your workout, getting into your car, and driving off to do 10,000 other things is the normal process we follow. But if you really want to drive it into the subconscious, you actually have to take a second to recognize the benefit you got from it. And ideally, write it down so you really remember. So how could you use this? Well, if you're trying to establish a good behavior, it could be morning exercise. So alarm goes off in the morning. You jump up and you put your running shoes on, and you go out the door for a run. You get back, you take 5 seconds and go, oh, I feel better for doing that. Now look, that's not some hokey new age thing where oh, you just need to pat yourself on the back and give yourself a hug. This is based on real neurobiology. Your brain is not going to drive something into the habitual subconscious unless it thinks it's good for itself. So you actually have to take the time to do it. And I'm only asking you to spend 5 seconds. That's really all I'm asking you to do. So this is low investment, high reward for doing that kind of a behavior. How about eliminating something unhealthy? First, you figure out the routine. I overeat when I get home from work. The reward is I feel comforted by the foods I eat. The cue was it was a stressful day. All you got to do is figure out a different routine that gives you the same reward. You could exercise, you could meditate, you could talk with friends, and it works the same way. Once you know what that new reward is going to be, or excuse me, the new routine is going to be, then back to this slide. Now, here's the thing with building habits. It's kind of like learning to juggle. Anyone juggle here? Any jugglers? 2 jugglers. Solid. That's more than most audiences. That's good. So, gentlemen, for your juggling, when you first started to learn how to juggle, how many balls did you start with? 8? 2. You start with 2. Not 8, not 9, not 10. Right? 2. So that makes sense, right? But you put 2 balls up in the air, and you start juggling them. And you get really good. And then from 2 balls, did you go to 6? No. Right? You went to 3, and then 4. You guys probably see where I'm going with this, right? Integrating habits in your life is just like juggling. You got to do it one at a time. Because if you try to integrate in multiple habits at the same time, it ends up all over the ground. It's January the 3rd. Somebody is going to start eating all paleo. They're going to exercise 6 days a week. They're going to meditate. They're going to sleep 9 hours a night. They're learning how to juggle with 14 balls all at one time, and they all end up on the ground, right? So it's a process of concentrating, practicing, mastering, and then adding and adding and adding. Can either of you guys juggle axes? Okay. Just curious. It's my favorite graphic for New Year's resolutions. Lose weight, lose more weight, lose weight again, stand up to my boss, find a job, try to be nice to my wife, try to be nice to my ex-wife, right? Like this is the New Year's resolution thing. And whether your New Year's resolution comes in January or it comes in June or whenever it is, we undergo the same mistakes time and time and time again. So this is how to build healthy habits. And this is an actionable thing you could take away. So like if there's a slide you guys want to take a picture of, feel free to take a picture of this one. You start with one thing you can change that you want to change. Guess what? There's some unhealthy habits in your life that you don't want to change, and that's okay, right? The worst question you could ask yourself about a healthy habit to change or something to change in your life from a health behavior standpoint is, what do I need to change? We actually teach our practitioners to not ask somebody, what do you need to change? Because when you ask somebody what they need to change, they're most likely to tell you the thing that they need to change the most, that they want to change the least, right? Like for me, you would ask me, Mike, what do you need to change? I'd say, well, I'd probably be a lot healthier if I had less caffeine. I have no desire to drink less caffeine. Like it's the least of my concerns, right? But I don't eat a lot of vegetables. Like I could probably add a serving of vegetables into my day, and everyone would agree that would make me healthier, and I'm actually willing to do it. So when you're thinking about the health behaviors that you can integrate in your life, nutrition or exercise, don't think of the thing that you absolutely is the worst thing that you need to change or the biggest thing you need to implement. Think of just something. Again, go back to my first slide. It's not about going from like ridiculously out of shape to ridiculously in shape. It's just about getting a little bit better. So figure out what you can and what you want to change. Have the knowledge to make the change successfully. Again, like I said earlier, this is rarely something that people need knowledge for. But as an example, some of our clients need to eat more protein, and that's what they decide is their health habit. Well, you got to learn how to cook protein, and so you got to find some information, right? Rarely is that step necessary, but if it needs to happen, it should happen. Then you apply those habit loop principles. So you go back to those slides earlier. Are we adding in a healthy habit? Are we taking out an unhealthy habit? And then here's the critical part. You keep a record of your progress. How you do it is entirely up to you. You could use an app. There are apps out there for this. You could use a journal, a piece of paper, and you ask yourself 4 questions. First question is, did you do it? Simple yes or no. So let's say your habit was, I'm going to have a piece of fruit every morning when I wake up. Did you eat your piece of fruit? Yes or no? If the answer is no, you ask yourself a critically important question. Why? Because why is the important question? I've made a career out of the fact that people have outsourced their critical thinking about fitness and nutrition to me, right? If I see 4 slices of pizza on somebody's food log, What am I supposed to say to that? Don't eat pizza? Like, how valuable is that? What's valuable is if I know why they ate the pizza. Did you not have any food at home, so you just grabbed it on the way? Did your spouse bring it home? Did you not eat all day at work and you were starving when you got home, so that's what you ate? The why dictates how you can actually change the behavior. And you don't need me or a fitness professional to necessarily tell you why you're doing or not doing something. You guys are all smart, successful adults. You can figure out why yourself. And when you do, and you learn how to work around it, then you can actually make the behavior change. I've never once met someone who asked themselves why to the question of no, they didn't implement a certain health behavior, and they haven't been able to come up with the answer. Sure, fitness professional might be able to expedite the process a little bit for it, but again, you guys are all smart enough critical thinkers that you're going to figure out, oh, the reason I didn't have my banana this morning is because I didn't go to the grocery store and get bananas, so I better somehow work that into my life. And I know that seems very, very elementary, but when you're trying to integrate several habits over the course of time, these little day-by-day questions that you ask yourself do allow you to solve the problems eventually. And then you get to the end of the week, and you rate on a scale of 1 to 10, how hard was it for me to change that habit? If it's anything greater than a 4 on a scale of 10, so a 5 or greater, don't add in the next habit. You haven't learned how to juggle well enough with 2 balls yet. So the way I suggest you go about doing this is something very simple. I call it a habits to build self-analysis. Again, simple tool you guys could take away. List the top 10 unhealthy behaviors in your life. Things you're doing or things you're not doing. Rank them based on ease of implementation. So 1 is the easiest thing to implement, the simplest thing. 10 is the hardest. For me, like 9 or 10 would be caffeine, right? It's just on the bottom of my list. Start with number 1. Start with the easiest thing and then build from there. That does 2 things. 1, it instantly starts making you healthier. Whatever that behavior is, that's number 1 on your list, the simplest to implement, if you implement it, you do that for 3 days, you are healthier. I promise you. 2, it builds confidence because you're actually successfully doing something. How many people are more confident at the end of week 4 of your average diet than they were at the end of day 1? Like nobody, right? Because it's so hard to make major habitual changes that are sleeping in your diet. But if you do one little behavior at a time and start with the simplest thing and build your way up, you build a lot of confidence, you get healthier much faster, and most importantly, you figure out where you don't have to go. Meaning for many people, the stuff that they really don't want to change, they probably don't need to change to be at the level of health and fitness that they want. Right? I could probably improve my health substantially without ever touching my caffeine. So it's a very simple way to go about doing it, but you have to be patient and you have to realize the benefit, the reward, the gratification from implementing that isolated behavior. So again, you go back a couple slides. If you're going to implement a habit, routine, cue, those are great. If the reward's not there, it doesn't get driven into your subconscious, and then it will not become a habit. So that's the part you have to take the time with. So my last piece of homework for you is complete a habits to build analysis and start with the easiest thing first. So I'll leave you with this, and then we'll have a second to kind of open it up for questions. I've told you some what I think to be helpful things today. Nothing I've told you today will ensure your success. I can promise you that. In fact, I can promise you that whatever health behavior you're trying to change, you're going to fail at it at some point in time. It just isn't going to work out every single day. And the good thing is that process of failure and learning is now backed up by neurobiology. So this concept of neuroplasticity, I can give like a 8-hour talk on that probably no one would be here for. But it's a fascinating area of science that actually tells you our brain changes. We used to think that your brain was your brain by the time you were about like 18, 19, 20, and then it was just kind of all downhill from there. Not even close. Your brain is literally rewiring itself till the day you die. And that has a lot to do with how we form new habits. You have a series of habits that are these habitual nerve tracks in your brain. Eventually, you're going to extinguish those old nerve tracks, those old habits, and you're going to build new nerve tracks and new habits. You're literally rewiring your brain, which is awesome, but it also takes time. And that's the biggest take-home message from all this is making sure you're willing to invest the time that it takes for this process of rewiring your brain and for habit formation to actually take. And I always remind people that the people that try to go fast with their health end up going really, really slow. I've had so many people tell me they've lost 100 pounds, and I say, oh, that's great. I say, yeah, but it's the same 20 pounds 5 times, right? People who try to go fast go really slow. The people who are slow and methodical and patient and who could realize the instant gratification that's associated with the journey are the people that are successful. And eventually, it actually changes your brain, and that changes your habits. And if you're willing to take the time because you realize you're worth the time, it will happen. Those are some of your homework assignments. Again, don't got to do all of them. 1 works, 2 works. I think we probably have about 5 to 8 minutes for questions. Brandon has a microphone, which is going to make the question and answer possibly more awkward for some people, but what questions you guys got?
So it's kind of like a loaded question. Not loaded. There are multiple parts. So the first part is, when do people start to usually plateau, and as in when will a workout start being as effective as it was in the beginning? And then when it comes to working out, is cardio enough if someone's doing a lot of cardio, or is it completely necessary to also include weight?
Wow, that is a very loaded question. So first part of the question. When will your body start to, quote, plateau? Well, I can tell you from a physiological perspective that your body starts to adapt to exercise and get used to it as soon as you start doing it, right? That's the way the body works. How fast does it adapt to the point where your body won't derive a significant benefit from it anymore? If you're talking about strength training, the general consensus is probably you should vary your program every 4 to 8 weeks. If you're talking about cardiovascular exercise, there probably doesn't need to be as much variation in it, particularly if it's long, slow distance. But I would not stick to the same regime of anything for more than about 4 to 8 weeks for cardio even. Switching it up does have a benefit. I don't believe any research supports switching it up every day, the whole muscle confusion thing. You don't want your muscles to be confused. You want them to know, you want them to adapt. So probably some consistency is important. Does that answer that part of the question? The second part of the question, it is a loaded one, but I'm super glad you asked it. This is not, I'm gonna preface my answer by saying this is not Meathead Weightlifter Mike answering a question like Meathead Weightlifter Mike. This is based on a lot of research. We're now starting to realize that from a functional capacity standpoint, from a longevity standpoint, from a health standpoint, and even from a cardioprotective standpoint, resistance training is far, far, far more important than cardiovascular exercise. All the studies that have came out recently have shown that resistance training, because of the stresses it puts the body under, has a multitude of benefits more so than cardio. I'm not saying that you should do cardio, but when you look at the research on example morbidity and mortality, that's very highly correlated with hand grip strength, right? Now, it's not that you need a real strong grip to live a long time, but if you have a strong grip and you're aging, you're probably doing more strength training. There's been research that showed, there's a massive study published in the American College of Sport Medicine's journal that talked about how resistance exercise resulted in lower incidence of cardiovascular events than even cardiovascular exercise, with the supposition being you get your blood pressure up to way higher points during resistance training than you ever do during cardio. You get your top blood pressure number, systolic blood pressure, when you're strength training. You know how you strain. You can get that 300, 350 millimeters of mercury, 180 when you're talking about cardio. So we're progressively realizing the benefit of resistance training more so than the benefit of the cardio. And the last point on this is that probably reflects the fact that we've just gotten to do better research on strength training in the past 20 years because technologies became a little bit more sophisticated. Back in the day, the best we could do was throw somebody on a treadmill and wish for the best.
Hi, I have a couple of questions. I'm interested when you shared your journey of when you gain weight back again and then you change your whole lifestyle. Based on what you said, what were the first things that you achieved changing it? And then how long it took you to finally change your lifestyle completely? 6 months, a year, how much?
So I'll answer the second part first. It probably took me about 4.5 years to get it right. Now again, I live, eat, sleep, breathe fitness. Probably about 4.5 years to get it right. The first thing I changed was I put my workout in my schedule, and I threatened people's life if they tried to move it. Like, I did. I mean, for me, like, it was a blessing and a curse that my place of business was also where the gym was at, right? So that was the first step I made. I said, I'm putting this in my calendar, and no one can touch it for any reason. And largely to this, like, day, that doesn't happen. Like, it literally takes a lecture at Google for me to move. I'd be working out right now for me to move my workout time, right? But I've slid it a little bit. So that was the first change I made. Just put it in there. And every day, I would go in there and I would do it. Now, some days I would have to do less, right? Like, I couldn't do a whole hour. This is when our business was getting going and things were crazy. But I made a commitment every single day to go in there and do something. Even if it was like 10 minutes of something, I did it. I know people, I've heard stories of habit formation where the first habit they did was every day they just went to the gym, they walked in there, they walked around, and they left, right? Now that sounds crazy, but they actually established the habit of going to the gym. So that was the first thing I did, and then slowly but surely from there, it was just, that small victory of doing something every day led into other things and other things and other things. But it's still a struggle to this day. I mean, everyone struggles with prioritizing themselves, right?
So one thing I've really struggled with is figuring out what the right time of day to work out is. So I've tested, just in the morning. Luckily at Google we have the flexibility to work out at lunch if we want, and then in the evening as well. And I always go back to what you spoke on for willpower. So my thought is if I work out too hard in the morning, then I'm not gonna have enough willpower and mental focus for the rest of the day. So would love if you could just share your thoughts on that.
Yeah, so time of day to work out. So the first thing I can tell you from a scientific perspective, if you look at circadian rhythms, which are your biorhythms, right? There is some research that suggests that certain times of day are more effective for certain kinds of exercise. So cardiovascular exercise is better earlier in the day. Strength-based exercise tends to be better later in the day. And this is partly from a lot of research done on when Olympic records have been set in certain sports. So I can tell you there's some science behind chronobiology and when to exercise. What I can tell you in reality is none of that actually matters, because the best time of day for you to exercise is the time that you are most likely and motivated to do it. So for some people that is first thing in the morning, because if they don't do it then, it's never going to get done. For me, it's the middle of the day. That's just what happens to work out best for me. For other people, it's the end of the day. So that answer is very, very individualized, but the point you made, I think, shouldn't be understated. It's maybe working out early is the best time for you to actually do it. But controlling your intensity during exercise so the rest of your day isn't destroyed, I think is also a very important thing. So many people think with exercise, it's all or nothing. If I'm not going to go all out for the time I'm doing it, it's not worth it. And I've seen so many people crush themselves during a workout that they actually burn fewer calories during the rest of the day because they move less. This is actually something that we call compensatory or reactive thermogenesis. You actually beat yourself up too much in a workout, and then you cancel out the calories you burnt from exercise because you don't want to move the rest of the day. So I think that controlling the intensity is a really important factor.
Yeah, and we have one last question.
Last question.
I'm curious, you kind of mentioned that the first primary metric that people use and find success with is the weight loss metric. I'm curious, for people who move past that and find success, what are some of the metrics or kind of goals that they set to find sustainability there?
Yeah, yes, it's a very common metric. Aesthetics are kind of the common metric that we use for success. And again, we're conditioned that way because of all the advertising. The people who are successful long term are the people that tend to find some sort of very intrinsic, deeply personal reason for doing it. It makes them feel better, it makes them feel healthier. Parents tend to find a lot of motivation in being able to have more energy to play with their kids and play with their grandkids. So when you progress past the superficial goal of, hey, I want to lose 15 to 20 pounds, and you find something that's more deep and something that's more meaningful, and ideally if that could be associated with the process of doing it, that's what seems to make the biggest difference. So liking the exercise that you do, being gratified from the actual act of doing it, have that be cardio drumming or Zumba or circuit training or whatever. If you like the kind of exercise you're doing and that brings you gratification and fulfillment, there's a likelihood that you'll keep doing it. So whenever somebody says, what's the exercise that's best for you to do? My answer to them is always the one that you're most likely to do.
Yeah. Similar on that note, I'm wondering so you're in healthy shape at this point. Do you have goals that you do every 6 months? I want to get better at X, or this month I'm going to focus on my legs and measure the progress towards that?
Do I need to focus on my legs? Damn it, you're probably right. That probably, my staff in the back of the room is laughing because they know that's the area. I guess I'll just answer that one from here. So honestly, my goal right now is maintenance. It's to stay the same. And here's the thing. I strongly encourage everyone, if you don't want to set any other fitness goal for yourself, set the goal of maintaining the fitness you're at right now. I don't care where your fitness is at. Most people, their fitness declines over time, right? Like I'm at a point I'm happy with. So I think it's a reasonable thing for me to say I want to maintain. But think of somebody that's unhealthy today. If they just maintain that same level of unhealthiness and didn't get worse, they're probably a lot better off for it in the long term. So to not get too philosophical on things right here, the answer for me at the point I'm at is I'm just happy to maintain, because if I maintain, that beats the average. Like if I'm in this shape when I'm 50 and 60 and 70, like to the extent you can be as you go through the aging process, that's a win all day long. So once you achieve a point that you, not your doctor, not your BMI, not public health guidelines, that you are happy with, plug in the maintenance plan and just ride off into the sunset. We'd all be much better off if we did that.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Mike, for a great talk, and thanks again for everyone for attending today.